You're welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's our steamy participatory breakfast program, Core Digest, and our topic this morning is one, like I said earlier, touches the entire fabrics of this country and its people. It's one that can make or mar the entirety of this country. We're looking at the free fall of the NAIRA, whither Nigeria's economy. And I'm now being joined by a very renowned economist, simply an economist, Henry BOYO. Good morning and welcome.
Morning, Chris.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. Some people find you very caustic and acerbic when you are dissecting the woes befalling this country, economically and financially. You don't talk of the finance when there is no economy. The state is really awful, Boyo.
Yes, we are in we're in very dire straits. We actually, if one has to be sincere, at the tipping point where things could very rapidly unravel. And if we're not careful, don't be surprised if by June we're talking of a gap of almost 300 naira. That is, we're talking of possibly 500 naira to $1 by June, if not earlier, if things are not quickly addressed. By December this year, it will be a surprise to me if we are not trading at 1,000 naira equals $1. Unless, of course, urgent steps are taken to address those issues that are bringing us to this position. You are absolutely right. The value of the naira is crucial to everyone, crucial to in every perspective, in every sector, even in the level of personal and individual contentment and happiness. I mean, we are in deep trouble, and it does appear as if we are hoping to continue to apply the same solutions, in inverted commas, which had failed in the past, and we hope to get new results. Well, I have bad news for you. You wouldn't get better results. In fact, as I say, we are at the tipping point, and if we're not careful, there would be, like you rightly say, there would be economy, but there would be no economy that would bring contentment to our people.
And the failure, I'm just, perusing your small, pamphlet, which of course is a guide to, the failure of all the economic indices, that have been put in place, even 50 years after. No wonder it's only in Nigeria that you call an adult that is 50 and above as having potential to becoming a graduate, potential to becoming an engineer, potential to becoming a successful business person. Nigeria, the sensible roads to economic prosperity. Let me quickly, bring out, a salient point you made there, which is our government's efforts to achieve some of the parameters of one, creating single-digit lending rates, increasing employment opportunities, lower single-digit rate of inflation, and market-determined exchange rate mechanisms are all lacking. Why are they lacking, Boyo?
I don't know if I have an answer to that question. One could only hazard a guess. It certainly isn't because people are not intelligent or we don't have competent, may not be the word, qualified people. But we probably have, to a very large degree, so much self-interest is evident in the people, in the character, in the behavior of people who govern us. Because what I have been saying since 2002 is not rocket science. I have said it, God knows how many. But unfortunately, because I believe it is self-interest, it can only be self-interest. I cannot ascribe it to lack of education or lack of exposure or
lack of knowledge,
lack of knowledge or whatever. Because in a situation where you find that the whole country for years have been bamboozled by the practice of monetary policy in Nigeria. I say bamboozled with very serious intent. You must be bamboozled if your treasurer, the treasurer of your company or the person who keeps the purse in your family comes to you and say, look, do you know what I have been doing? I have been giving our money to the banks and I have been borrowing it back. And you ask, what do you do with the money that you borrow back? Because the money in the system is too much, so I need to borrow it back. So what you do? I just keep them because my purpose is just to withdraw the money and keep it. And then somebody in the family or somebody says, but we have a requirement for a hospital or this or that. And the real sector also says we need money to be able to expand our businesses and say, yeah, they can take care of themselves. But you know, if I leave all this money within the system, there's going to be inflation because money will be available for everybody. So it makes sense for me to borrow this money from, even though I made the money available in the first place, to borrow the money and keep it under lock and key, keep it idle, and I'm willing, folks, to pay anything from 5 to 15%
to come and
to keep this money, so that people don't access that money. That must be bamboozlement if you tell me that you understand.
Isn't that voodoo economy? Economics.
It's better to call it self-interest economics because a lot of people are benefiting from it. The banks, for example, would never take a serious look at the real sector because they have this free money that they live on, government borrowing money that it doesn't need. But like I say, Chris, I mean, we are bamboozled and we are intimidated that even the whole news media in Nigeria, without exception, print, electronic, all of you, you bought the lie and you extol this blatant nonsense as best practice.
Without telling the ordinary Nigerian the truth.
The truth. If you had explained to the ordinary Nigerian that your economic team is performing wonders, and the best way is doing this is to say, we think there's always too much money in the system, so we have to borrow. Insistently for over 30 or 40 years, you wonder if you have been mopping up this excess naira that is in the system, and the naira does not
strengthen.
No,
does not even finish. Yeah.
So you must wonder, where is that source from which this so much naira continues to come that makes this my treasurer do things that appear very silly and stupid because you are borrowing money you don't need to keep at the time that your real sector is crying for funds. But then you say that I can take care of the real sector. I'll give them other interventions. And we all buy it also. The media also buys it. The media doesn't educate the people that what are these people saying? You are complaining on one hand that you have surplus cash in the system that makes you do silly things like borrowing money you don't need. And now you say you want to intervene in agriculture, in this and that, and you are going to put what? More money into a system that you have already announced to the whole world is suffocated with the NAIRA. But you see, people have been driven to the point where they don't think about these things anymore. Let me go to work and come back. Let me have my daily bread.
There is no creativity.
It's more like these people must know what they are doing. They can't be so stupid. They can't be so destructive. But the reality is, self-interest has many colorations, and unfortunately, it can be so destructive if that becomes a habit of somebody who has a government position and has access to the treasury. The monetary authorities have never hidden the fact that they have a problem with excess liquidity. From Soludo to Sanusi to Emefiele, they have all said, look, we are always having to mop up. Eventually, I think it was Sanusi who then made the statement that, look, isn't this this was before the introduction of the TSA, that isn't this a wonderful concept, business model, that we give the banks our money for free and then we go and borrow it back and keep it idle. And he said this, and nobody said, are you continuing this? Have you stopped? Or why do you? And everybody kept quiet, which one concerned Agbero with overload. Then come Emefiele. Emefiele also said the same thing. He said, can you imagine it? A wonderful business model where we support the banks with money.
And they go and borrow it back again.
We even when they were about to collapse, give them 5 trillion naira loan, and then that is not enough. We still have to give them some, go back and borrow part of that 5 trillion naira loan. So it really must, I have to smile, I have to laugh, because otherwise it's so painful. It really is very touching that we can be led by the tide down the garden path, and we unfortunately have reached that stage where decisions have to be made, because as I said before, we are at the tipping point, and I had hoped and prayed for over 14 years that we would never get there.
Let's just hope and pray that we don't tip over. Well, Boyo, we're going to take a very short break to allow our other guest, Charles Eke. He's a financial expert. Let him come and tell Nigerians, about the monetary policy rates and the rest, and the various credit rates, and see how they are juxtaposed with a suffering, a snail walking economy like ours and the rest, and a currency that is almost like that of Idi Amin's Uganda. All right, we'll take a short break now. Join us again.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the federal government of Nigeria.
For topical issues, Nigerians must have something to say.
Arms. We don't need arms for anything. Let them put it into education.
They need to buy another arms now. What are they fighting for? Government should deal with them squarely.
Please help us bring back our gas. No money, no markets. We are dying. Everybody is crying. Nothing.
Any man God support, no man stops.
It's a prophecy I believe he must have received from heaven.
Yes.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
Very sincere apologies there. Charles Seke, the financial expert we're expecting, isn't here, but you are very much in capable hands with Henry Boyo, I tell you. Call him simply economist. That's what he's going to tell you now. Now, Boyo, we have looked at all theories, some of our viewers will want to say, you get the point, that are not being put into practice. But look at the factors responsible for the fall of the Naira. Devaluation, some people will call it, whichever way you want to look at it. We know the very obvious one. The fall in oil prices. Nigeria, the low exportation rate, the poor industrialization. There's no industry in Nigeria at all. And the central bank and even the commercial banks are not encouraging, because like you pointed out, the central bank, in mopping the Naira year in, year out, decade after decade, mops the same money, returns it to the commercial banks and say, borrow us at 12 or 15%. How does that help any economy to grow?
Well, the simple answer is it doesn't. It doesn't help any economy to grow. You how would I say? You also fell into the trap a minute or so ago. When you believe when you said what you believed, that the Naira value is dependent on the size of dollar reserves we have and the fact that we are not productive, in inverted commas.
Yeah.
You fell into that trap because that is what you have been fed and fed and fed and fed. And like most people, say the same thing. They tell you it's because we are not diversified, it's because we are not this. You see, if you have stated or claimed that the poor value of the weak value of the Naira is the result that we are not earning more dollars from crude oil. That's the main
issue.
Apart from that's what they tell you. You have a right to ask the question in return. So you mean if we had more dollars, the Naira would be stronger with me? And you say, yeah, because if we have more dollars, and then you now say, wait, what happened in 2006? What happened when the crude oil was $140 a barrel, when we paid off our debt and we had reserves of $60 billion, or what about the best ever reserves, and we're told that our imports cover, in view of those reserves, was 20 months and beyond? My friend, why didn't the Naira become stronger? Shouldn't we have been talking of a Naira rate below 100 or something at that time? Because if you do say that the issue is the quantum of dollars that we earn, how come when we had stupendous
earnings from dollar,
absolutely,
the economy didn't grow?
Nothing happened.
The economy didn't grow.
So you cannot hold on to that position that it is the reserves that determines your... I hope you understand what I'm saying.
No, very well.
Thank you. So you now find that they will tell you other things. They will say, oh, it's because we are not diversified. We need to diversify the economy. And how do they...
how do you diversify?
They throw in more money into various sectors in spite of the CBN admitting that, look, I had a monetary problem of surplus money in the system, which could drive inflation. So you can find that basically they have consciously been pursuing counterproductive policies, but they believe that nobody can see it. The news medium, they won't report. They would report that this is what is happening, but they would not analyze. And we ask them, but why don't you interpret this? No. Our job is just to report. They will tell you, and they do report, and they do suffer as a result of not telling the truth to the public, because then we are all living what?
A fool's paradise. This fool's paradise, the big lie that we're being told, again, has another snowball effect, because production in all ramifications, whether in agriculture, where they say it's the present gold mine or the black gold that is untapped, is not even there. It's not been revived.
You see, you cannot diversify the economy without certain things I would mention. You appreciate that there's hardly any government in the last 30 years that has not said we are going to diversify the economy. And they do things which people say, this would help to diversify. At the end of the day, nothing happens. The truth, of course, is that in order to diversify an economy, what is paramount as a strategy paradigm has to do with monetary policy. Okay. In other words, first you have to ensure that the people have money enough to spend. In other words, they have the consumer demand. Without any money,
there won't be demand.
You can't pay for anything. If there is no demand, there's no reason why any investor would want to build a factory to satisfy a demand that does not exist. Okay, so on the one hand, inflation at 9-10% or thereabouts is a sure way of reducing consumer demand, because your wife will tell you that I got to the market today, the money you gave me, I could only buy count how many things in the basket. That kind of thing. That's what inflation is, which means you have to keep stepping down. It makes you poorer, basically. So if inflation is at about 10%, it means that there can't be consistent, sustainable consumer demand that will drive investors. But even, let's assume that there is even consumer demand, which is not likely, but let's assume that there is consumer demand. And then the the investors, how do you think they would react if they have to go borrow money to satisfy the gaps in the market at 20-something%, they will tell you, I will be working for the bank. I know because I am one. I'm an industrialist.
Yeah.
I also am aware that no economy anywhere in the world can ever dream of succeeding when the real sector is being asked to borrow at 20-something%, and nobody sees anything wrong with that. Okay, at the same time that this real sector is being forced to borrow at 20-something%, you now have the central bank simultaneously saying there's too much money in the economy. Let me mop it up, and in order to mop it up, I have to set my monetary policy rate so high, first to deter people from wanting to borrow. And if I set my monetary policy rate so high, the banks would have no option but to also set their own
lending rates.
And when they do so, a lot of people will be debarred or will consider it insane to go borrow at that kind of, especially when you want to do a long gestation investment. Okay, so when you understand that this is the issue, that inflation would reduce consumer demand, cost of funds would not make it possible for investors to even participate. Okay, that is why the CBN has autonomy according to the 2007 Act, that it has monopoly over the management of the monetary policy
in the country.
But then the Act failed to put parameters. It says you are supposed to manage price, maintain price stability, manage interest rate, inflation, and exchange rate stability and things like that. But it didn't say at what margin would you say you are failed. Okay, because internationally, monetary policy rates in countries which are successful, have successful economies, you would find, for example, the Bank of England's monetary policy rate is probably 1% or even sometimes below. The Federal Reserve is probably hanging around 1%. Therefore, the banks take a cue from that and lend to the public or their customers at a rate above the. So, if the CBN Act 2007 had defined the parameters under which, if the governor cannot achieve, he would have been deemed to have failed, then we would have a better system. We would have a proactive system, because at the moment, even if inflation goes to 15%, you still say, the man is a good central bank governor. When the cost of funds is at 25%, we say, the man is trying, because why? You have not given him parameters on which you would score him. Ideally, you should be saying something like, in order to follow best practice, any central bank governor who is not able to keep inflation not higher than 2% of the LIBOR rate, that is the London Interbank Offer Rate, which is the ruling rate, how would I say, the basic rate that controls almost all the interest rates in the world. Okay, at the moment, LIBOR is probably about 1 or certainly less than 2%. So, if any central bank governor is unable to keep inflation below monetary policy rate below 4%, he should be shown the way out, because when monetary policy rate is at 13% and beyond, it's total failure. And there's no point in sustaining such a system, especially when the people who are practicing it, the practitioners, come and tell you to your face, because they think you're not thinking, and tell you that, look, this is what we've been doing. We keep mopping up money, and we know you're not going to ask us, where does this extra money come from? So we are going to keep doing it and keep telling you that, look, we are doing our best. But the reality, as I've told you, I've tried to disabuse your mind to not believe that it is not because of the dollar, and it is not because of diversification, because diversification would never come so long as you have all these things. The reality, of course, is that simple market dynamics of NAIRA supply, dollar supply, simple, that's all. But if you are deliberately, as a Nigerian, as a central bank governor, fighting a war against your own currency, and people don't know that that is what you're doing, we'll get into the position in which we find ourselves. I ask you, if dollar reserves was the issue that affects exchange rate, why is it that the Naira was not 50 Naira? When you had $60 billion worth of reserves? The answer is very simple. When you had $60 billion worth of reserves, plenty of dollars, what happened? Central banks started selling dollars to borrow the exchange. Have you ever heard that kind of nonsense before? Nowhere in the world does that happen.
No.
They started selling as a way of saying,
This money is too much.
It's too.
Please take.
In fact, the reality was, I think the central bank governor at that time boasted that we can afford it. We have plenty of dollars to be able to sell dollars to Bureau de change. In addition to say you're selling dollars to Bureau de change, you now auction the dollars to the banks. Anything that you auction, you expect the price to go
To shoot up.
Okay, and what are you comparing it with? Your own naira. So, so if you are busy auctioning the dollars, it means you are deliberately rationing the dollars and putting it in the market when you are aware that you have suffocated the system already with excess naira.
Yes.
So when you now have this excess naira that you have created in the system, chasing the dollar rations that you now introduce, what do you expect the naira value to be? It will crash. That is why when you had excess reserves, the reality was by the time the excess reserves were converted or substituted with naira allocations, that first of all blew up the naira sums in the market. Okay, instigated the excess liquidity. Okay, so you now have excess naira in the system that people don't know what to do. That even your own central bank is admitting that I'm doing something so crazy like borrowing this money I don't need, and after borrowing the money, they keep the money idle. But the dollars that you are auctioning, they're in rations. The naira that you have put in place is the naira equivalent of the whole thing that you have. But then you are now rationing the dollars into the market. So you are deliberately skewing the market against your
the
naira.
Now, look at this. When nations devalue their naira, it is usually to shore up exports. It is usually to create wealth through employment, because when industries are so empowered, there is creation of so many goods and services. Our brothers across the Niger in the east, where we still have some hubs of mechanical manufacturing, so to speak, and you move from Nnewi and you go to area market, you find that some of the shirts and fabrics are made there and the rest. But again, is it creating that kind of wealth and economic effect that will help the naira? Because in most cases too, they have to chase the dollars to buy some of their industrial materials.
You see, I give all credit to every industrialist in Nigeria. They are confronted with very, very huge challenges, not least of which is this naira devaluation. It has certainly set the cat in its pigeons, and we have to react very, very quickly. The industrialists, be they in Nnewi or anywhere, their survival will be dependent on if inflation continues, whether or not inflation continues to go in this manner. Because at the end of the day, whom are they going to produce for? Okay, their survival will also depend on whether the funds that are available for lending are sensible
to borrow.
Okay, because they are having to compete against goods that are coming from countries where there is even export grant, not even a cost of funds, export grant. Okay. In addition to that, also these goods are produced in economies where there is stable power and all sorts of advantages like that. So you may be, in fairyland by thinking that that the man there, I mean, with all credit, they are doing wonderfully well. I give kudos to them. But the realities are realities. Economies don't exist in a vacuum. Economies everywhere in the world are driven by the indices that I have enumerated.
I'm very sorry, Boyo. I just have to put you on pause here. We got one or two messages. When you get really sucked into this discourse, you're just carried away. So we'll take a very short break now so that we can take one or two messages. Join us again.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digit 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the federal government of Nigeria.
Is it crazy or autocracy? Or what type of crazy is that? Except crazy.
News making the headlines.
Black Maria is to carry criminals, trading looters that are in government today.
Sometimes it gets confrontational.
Slap you in the face. They don't put words into my mouth.
Whatever it is that will bring our military to disrepute, I said to hell.
On Core Digest,
I want to know why I should be believing them.
Every weekday, we bring all of these together and take them to the court of public opinion.
Everybody has a right in Nigeria.
Where you are the judge.
Welcome back. Boyo, you were talking about, the challenges of devaluation when I mentioned the small industrialist in Newi, the small manufacturer in area and the rest. In other climes, devaluation of the currency would ginger production for exports and the rest.
That has not been supported historically in our own case.
In Nigeria.
Okay. If that were true in totality, in its entirety, you would be expecting that we would have nowhere to keep our exports at the moment, because the Naira has devalued over time from 50 kobo to $1 to 1 Naira to 2 Naira to 5 Naira to 10 Naira to 100 Naira, and yet we're not seeing any. So you must not believe that. I mean, historically, you can.
It does not happen in Nigeria at all. But if it doesn't happen in Nigeria, then there is a problem here. Is that why the president, Muhammadu Buhari, does not believe in the devaluation of the Naira? That's one question. The second one is, what are the very likely outcomes of our present situation, the Naira devaluation right now?
Thank you, Chris. I 100% I believe that President Buhari is doing the right thing with regards to his insistence that the Naira should not be devalued. It's a very patriotic thing, it's a realistic thing, it is a necessary position he must hold, but for how long he can hold that position is another thing, unless the right things are done. And the reasons why he must feel totally averse to devaluation are many. If you take, for example, the stock market, okay? The stock market is about 14 trillion naira some time ago.
Yeah.
And that was at the rate of naira of 165 or 170 at that time. We're talking of maybe in excess of about 70 or 80 billion dollars. Okay. By the time the naira became 200 naira to a dollar, apart from the gradual slide in the price of equity in the stock market, the naira fell to 200. The value of stocks in the market also equally fell. Look at it this way. Now that the stock value is 8 trillion naira, 8.5 trillion naira or so, we now have a capital market value of about $40 billion, 40 billion US dollars. If, on the other hand, you now devalue the naira to the nearest you can devalue the naira, by the way, if you're trying to match the black market or the parallel market rate, will probably be nearer 300 and above, since we hear that the parallel market is selling at about 300 plus.
370.
370.
As of today.
So you might even have to take it as far as 350, so as to reduce the gap, because that's always the intention.
But here it is fixed. The CBN says it's fixed at 198 naira to the dollar.
Yeah, I'm saying that if you have to devalue the naira,
yes,
now,
you have to take it nearer than the what is obtainable in the parallel market.
Okay,
all right.
Otherwise, there continue to be a gap. It will be the motivation for arbitrage and profiteering and things like that. So you assume that you're taking it to 350 in order to be nearer to the black market. First danger is that the black market may not remain at 370. It will probably go
up
further.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's assume that it does, that it retains that smaller margin. What becomes the value of the equity in the market? It means that from $40 billion that you thought you had, you suddenly have that it's about $20 billion. You know, there is hardly any stock, I think, apart from Nestle, or to some extent maybe Nestle and one or two other Seplat, and there is hardly any equity price in the Nigerian stock market that is up to $1. Most of them are in the range of 10 cents, and you hear stocks of Google and all of these for $100, and you're talking of 10-cent market. And if you continue to devalue the naira as the black market rate continues to rise, you'll find that
the stock value will plummet.
In addition to that, also the celebrated 510 billion, and they haven't told you it can't be 510 billion gross domestic product anymore. That was when the naira was 165 or something like that.
Yeah, when the economy was rebased there.
Was rebased. Now, when you think of the current 200, it's probably taking over 100 billion off your gross domestic product. A further devaluation would knock off another 50% or something like that, and suddenly you say, where did all that productivity go? Not because you are producing much less, but just because you are ascribing values to the naira which are totally inappropriate, or which are totally inappropriately determined by factors which you yourself self-instigate. In addition to that, you will find that if you have been putting your money aside on pensions, because we have to.
They have several trillions now in that.
It would be good for the economy if it's invested in certain areas, but although most of the funds now are invested in treasury bills that don't add any value, but let's assume that the money is well utilized. But what about the people who made the contributions? What would their lives be in 10 or 20 years' time? If you continue to devalue the naira beyond what it is at the moment, you will find that, Chris, at the time that you are retiring and whatever, and
my money is worthless.
Your money is worth a piece of paper, okay? And you will be in
real dire straits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you will lose a lot of self-dignity as a result of that. So you'll find that devaluation is so hydra-headed in terms of the damage it can do to our economy. But those are just two areas. The reality also is that the people who owe money, who have been encouraged to take dollar loans, okay, if they had borrowed $1 million before, and they thought they would be paying 200 million naira in return. Suddenly they find that they have to go and pay 350 million or thereabouts. They probably commit suicide. Okay, so the motivation to invest will also be low, and if they don't invest, there's no possibility of increasing the employment situation.
Yeah.
But most importantly, this is where I say we come to the crux. You'll find that we are being told that we are not paying subsidy on petrol anymore. If anything, we are getting something.
Yeah.
But I tell you something, if you devalue the naira to 300 or thereabouts, the price of fuel will automatically shoot up to 130 naira or more.
But we've not seen that yet.
That would happen because if you have not devalued it. The moment you devalue to 300 naira to a liter, to 300 naira to a dollar or thereabouts, it means that you would have a spike in your fuel price to about 130. And if you say, as I have observed several times, if you don't arrest the problem, the issue of liquidity that causes space, you are going to have a situation where before June, if nothing is done, the price of the naira will trade in the black market at 500, and before Christmas it probably trade at over 1,000 naira. These
are some of the likely outcomes that we're talking of the naira devaluation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, not to talk of the effect on food prices and the rest, consumables.
Maybe your wife hasn't been bothering you lately. That do you imagine? They are telling me that price of tomato has gone up because of dollar. What has dollar got to do with tomato?
In fact, with this with this that you've just brought up now, let us just listen to the real Nigerian out there and hear what they are saying about the state of Nigeria's naira. That is the free fall of naira Whither Nigeria's economy. And when we return after watching the clips, please call us, join us in this conversation by calling our line 0816 481 8001. I take that again, and if you look right on your screen, the number is there. It is 0816 481 8001. Let's watch what Nigerians are saying about the fall of the naira.
It's just a new dawn on everybody just to be aware what's happening in the country. And I'm very sure no investors want to come in for now because of this insecurity in the country and political instability. So we just need to go back home and redraft what we need. We need to reduce our importation, just encourage our local content. That's the only way out. We don't need to depend on the dollar.
Everybody keeps taking advantage of it. Ordinary, where do you buy? They'll tell you dollar don't increase. Water, dollar don't increase. It's just unfortunate that people are not ready to really take things cool. They just want to take advantage of the situation of what is happening. Fine, the dollar is high, definitely to affect everything. But at the same time, it doesn't mean we should now start increasing unnecessarily because it's getting outrageously now. Transport fare, when you take 10,000 out for transport, you just like you're spending the whole thing on transportation alone.
I think the government has a lot to do because it has never been like this before. So the issue that was the problem, I think all the financial institutions, all the financial intellects, they need to come together and do something about it because it's affecting everything that is going on right now in the country. Even the ordinary tomato seller will tell you that dollar don't high. I don't know whether that dollar is still they buy tomatoes on markets. So it's a very terrible thing. I think the government should do something about it.
Dollar is on the free fall. Everybody knows that. What I think causes is that our exports, Nigeria, we have nothing to export, and our major export, which is crude oil, is on the free fall. As in the price of crude oil is falling at a rapid rate, and at which Nigerians, we have nothing. We import most of our things, even to speak, we import it, and we have nothing to export. And this is part of things that determine our exchange rate, which determines the value of naira to dollar.
It's kind of frustrating for us right now because everything, if you go to the market, everything has, there's an increment in everything you see in the market. So it's quite frustrating for us to be at this level, this stage in our country right now. The pharmacies, everything is just dwindling down. Instead of things to pick up, everything is going down, which is making everybody so sad. You go out and you see how people are complaining and crying. that things keep deteriorating. So the government has to do something about it.
It's just a function of what is happening in the economy right now. Because, for example, when you look at, we are a system that is highly import dependent. Until we learn to improve our technology base so that to improve the productivity of local industries through government encouragement.
I think it's high time that we look inward. All foreign products that we do patronize, we do buy, should stop. For the fact that Nigeria is a member of the World Trade Organization, putting in place a protective or protectionist policy will never help us. So it is better for, at this moment, to encourage Nigerians to buy made in Nigerian products so that, the Naira can appreciate as well.
Well, whenever you go to the market these days, you keep hearing people shouting, dollar, dollar, dollar. Some will tell you, dollar don't high. But what is the reason concerning this? Meeting people, sampling their opinions concerning the hike in dollar. That is the devaluation of Naira. Have people on the streets, and let's hear their reaction. What do you have to say concerning the hike in dollar?
That dollar is too high, too much. It costs our market. Our market is too cost. If you go market, you know they see meat bag before you see meat bag. That dollar, it affects our markets too much.
So looking at this, your meat, how do you buy it before, and what rates are you buying now?
Before I buy lowest price, but now highest price I buy. That's why. May government may help us. It's too much. As they sell it like this, maybe if you don't sell it well, it's shortage. That's why everything they cost.
The rest of the dollar is, before we are buying like this coffee that I'm selling by Batala, we used to bought it like 8,000, 9,000, but now it's 10,500, 11,000, 12,000. If you start complaining, they'll be telling you that the dollar that has increased. Even the stockfish, we used to bought it cheap before, but now everything is high price. So we are begging, please, let government help us. Even to sell it is problem, because when we want to add the little gain that we want to have, the customers will be complaining that everything is cost.
It's really affecting me, because before now I used to buy at cheaper rate, but now the thing has increased. Even I went to snap just passports. Instead of 200 naira, they are telling me 250. That the thing is affecting their business.
So what do you want the government to do?
I want them to do something about it. Maybe they should bring it down.
Like breakpoint.
All right, you welcome back. You had all Nigerians there, everybody, whether the crayfish seller, the meat seller, that is the butcher, anything, it's all dependent on the dollar. Boyo, maybe it's high time we ask the United States government to, allow us to be using the US dollar as our own currency. Against the background when you wrote some years ago, save the Naira, save Nigeria. Very prophetic?
Well, it wasn't meant to be prophetic. It was a warning. Unfortunately, the warning was not heeded.
Yeah, because prophets are never, welcome in their homes.
But it is clear that the value of the Naira is badly battered and really shouldn't be this low. If you ask me, the Naira itself should not be more than 100 Naira to a dollar, and even at 100 Naira, to me is, if, for example, if the Naira price or the dollar price has risen almost 2 times because the price of crude oil has come down by, almost 60 or 7%, as the case may be. When the price of crude oil jumped from 20, 30, 40 and tripled and quadrupled, why didn't we see a stronger Naira? You must always remember that, otherwise you'll believe all kinds of things, that you need more dollars.
Dollars, yeah.
We have enough dollars. You must be very careful that you do not look for solutions outside the areas where the solutions is come from. Technically, the route that we have chosen will lead the economy to nowhere. I believe that, as I said earlier, that Mr. President is sincere and really wants to do good and should maintain that the Naira should not Naira should not be further devalued.
Okay.
But he has to do the right thing. He must ask what creates the excess liquidity.
Okay,
that
okay, Boyo.
suffocates the Naira.
Yeah, Boyo, I would let you come back to that. The questions Mr. President must be asking his economic team, his governor of the central bank, and the team there. Yomi from Lagos, good morning for joining us on Core Digest. Good morning, Yomi.
Hello?
Yeah, good morning, Yomi. I'm with you. Oh.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, Yomi. If you can see me,
fine.
I can hear you. Oh, sorry. Our first caller there is not going through, and I heard him clearly, you know, while speaking with me. So, some of those things that Mr. President must do you think he's gotten that economic team that will really look inwards, you know? Because when you wrote 14 years ago now, save the Naira, save the nation, save Nigeria, right? I said it was prophetic. You don't want to see it that way. It's all right. But you were looking at a larger picture of the devaluation of the Naira, where the Naira is not going to find its feet, where the banking system is going awry, and the real people who need this money can't even go near the banks.
Right.
So production is almost zero.
The chances that you would have a better, how do I say it, increase in the rate of employment is zero. Maybe not zero. Maybe it's not as bad as that.
But they are right now, because the only employer of labor is government, and that's why government is creating 500,000 employment, right? Is that what it's supposed to be?
Again, they are throwing money into
the drains.
Exactly, because already the problem is not money. The central bank is borrowing money it doesn't need and tells you so. It's not. They are not hiding it, and then you still say, "Oh, these people need money," and then you create more money. Don't forget, it's money creation.
Yeah.
Create more money and put
in the system.
Well, put in the system, and then you say, "Yeah, liquidity has become a problem once more." Then you go and, you go and borrow the money back. So, I believe that the Mr. President has good intentions, but unfortunately, if he's surrounded by people who are self-seeking, and don't forget, the people who are benefiting from the current system would not sit and not fight back. They will. You can imagine, the CEO of monetary management tells you this is our problem. The banks, we give them money, they don't use it, and then he doesn't blame himself, but he says we go back and borrow the money back. We've been doing this. We've been doing it. You know,
it's the norm.
Do you think that the banks who are benefiting from it, all the banks are making profits? Real sector manufacturers, they make 5% or whatever. The banks make 15% or thereabouts. But at the end of the day, what is the impact of the bank on the real sector? They should have no interest at all, because they have a place where they can borrow. They can make free money.
Yeah.
Free. In fact, it is subsidized money.
Okay, let's take Ufoji from Jos. Good morning, Ufoji.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on Core Digest, and it's the free fall of the Naira. What are your thoughts? I'm sure you're a businessman, Ufoji. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, please talk to us.
Hello?
Tell us your thoughts.
Hello?
Ufoji, we are with you. Okay, I think we're having a connection problem. There's a huge shame, you know. All right, let's take a short break now, and when we return, we'll continue with our discussion. Join us again.
For topical issues, Nigerians must have something to say.
Arms. We don't need arms for anything. Let them put it into education.
They need to buy another arms now.
What are they fighting for?
Government should deal with them squarely.
Please help us bring back our guests. No money, no markets. We are dying. Everybody is crying. Nothing.
Any man God support, no man stops.
It's a prophecy I believe he must have received from heaven. Yes.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
Is it warocracy or autocracy? Or what type of crazy is that? Except crazy.
News making the headlines.
Black Maria is to carry criminals, trading looters that are in government today.
Sometimes it gets confrontational.
Slap you in the face. Excuse me, don't put words into my mouth.
Whatever it is that will bring our military to the secret. I said to hell
on Core Digest.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
Every weekday, we bring all of these together and take them to the court of public opinion.
Everybody have the right in Nigeria.
Where you are the judge.
All right, so welcome back again. The number to call, like we said, is 0816-481-8001. Please, when calling in, kindly turn down the volume of your TV set so that we can have a very smooth conversation and communication between you and I and vice versa. Now, look at one of the if you like, several misinformation from the Central Bank of Nigeria saying that the policy direction for inflation, exchange rate and interest must be seen not only in the context of price and financial stability, but also in enhancing the quality of life of Nigerians and promoting employment generation. That is what, you understand, the policy thrust should be. But ideally, that is not what we're getting. Let me just take this caller, Mohammed from Lagos. Good morning, Mohammed.
Good morning.
Yeah, please, can you speak a little louder so that we can really hear you?
Good morning, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome to Core Digest. Tell us, Mohammed, how has the fallen NAIRA, value of the NAIRA, affected you? You see, Mohammed, I had appealed to you earlier that please turn down the volume of your radio set. Please turn it down. Can you kindly do that? All right, Boyo, let's continue. Now, these are the real issues that the monetary policies, you know, exchange rates, regulations, and the rest should be able to do to create what you want to call price and financial stability and enhancing the living standards of the average Nigerian, creating employment and rest. All these are absent, right?
Yes.
What should the government be doing right now? Because the CBN is just, you know, very robotic about regenerating the economy, the financial sector and the economy.
You see, it probably pays the CBN, not in terms of all the people there, but in terms of the top management of the CBN, in their collaboration with the banking subsector. They probably find it convenient to sustain that collaboration. Otherwise, it's not as if they don't know what is happening. As I've told you,
the CEOs,
they have all said so, that we have a problem with excess liquidity. You know, that makes us or don't you think it's crazy to borrow money you don't need? And it's not just your money, it's the money of 170 million people. Whatever interest rate you're paying, whether it's 1% for money you don't, at a time that the real sector is crying out for funds. That is why I said earlier that in order to judge the performance of the monetary management team, including the CBN government, you must have parameters, because no economy would succeed industrially anyhow if cost of funds remain. Address the issue of cost of funds, okay? But that cannot be. They can't address it when there is excess liquidity. Address the issue of inflation, but they can't address it if inflation is at 10% and excess liquidity continues to be there. So in order that you have a stronger Naira, you cannot continue also to have excess Naira supply. So excess Naira supply predicates the three indices that you mentioned: interest rate, inflation, and exchange rate stability. The quantum of Naira in the system is very embarrassing. It's embarrassing to government. So you can imagine how it will be embarrassing also to achieving those indices that you are supposed to that are supposed to drive the economy. Because these indices are not just there as they are the drivers of any economy. You cannot diversify your economy, and I am almost tired of hearing people we must diversify without talking of cost of funds and inflation, and indeed exchange rate stability.
Okay, let's take Oyeboyin. Oyeboyin, good morning. He's calling from Aba. Good morning, Oyeboyin.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chris.
All right. Good morning.
Yeah. I really want to make this contribution here. You know, the problem we have is that we have too many complaints and non-giving solution to the problem we are having now. You know, the present government, they complain so many things about the past administration. They complain about fuel subsidy removal. They did a lot of complaints, but now they are in power. What are they doing to cut the situation, the worsening situation that masses are passing through? Now we have somebody who came in as the president and who said that he's going to make $1 equal to 1 naira. Now he traveled out of the country without his economic team. What effect do you think that is going to bring to Nigerians? And what kind of thing do you think that thing is going to cause? Now, if you go to market, if you go to everywhere in the market, in area market, in shopping center, people are complaining that dollar is high, dollar is high. Even the tomato selling people, even the butcher man is telling you that that dollar is cost, and therefore that they will have to increase everything. Now we have too many companies there who are producing a lot of things, but the federal government of Nigeria have refused to help them. So how do you think that the situation will be solved? So we have too many complaint people, APC, government, they are good in complaining, but now they are still using propaganda. It is time they come out and tell Nigerians the truth about the situation of things. And we are sick and tired of all these things that is happening. Otherwise, any moment from now, we will stage a very huge protest. We are sick and tired of all this. If they don't want to bring the solution, they should pack out.
All right, thank you very much, Oyeboyin from Aba. That's very, emotional, passionate response to what is happening. It says,
the worst is yet to come. The worst is yet to come. I want you to understand this very clearly. If you follow the traditional way, these people have always done their things. When I say these people, I don't mean whether one party or the other. It's the core people who run the monetary policy of this country. We have never had a situation where the Naira has actually improved in value, apart from a small time when it improved from 165 or 160 something or the other, 163 to 165 or something like that. But nothing that resembles a true reflection of the Naira value in view of the stupendous dollar reserves we had at that time. Let me give you a small example of the kind of economic rascality that has happened, and it's also still happening, I must say. Before the present administration, the former finance minister, a well-renowned expert, together with the former president, went to China in order to seek for a loan, $1.5 billion, $2 billion or something like that, for railway and
$2 billion.
$2 billion. Thank you very much indeed. And the governor of the central bank at that time was also in the entourage. And the media asked him, but sir, what are you here for? And he says, look, Nigeria has so much reserves. We are worried about the dollar. We want to diversify our holdings, so we are looking to invest in some yen. What stopped the clever Chinese businessman from taking the dollars from Mr. Governor and then lending it to Mr. The former president and the finance minister? Whereas, as at now, we also have a similar problem. We have $27 or $28 billion sitting down as idle reserves, okay, at JP Morgan or wherever, and yet we are looking for external loan. What's stopping the people, the investors we are looking at, going to JP Morgan to borrow from them at 3% or 4% and coming to lend to Nigeria at 9%? Okay, what stops any investor who wants to take a risk to borrow externally at 5 or 6% and come and make 17% on government bonds here?
Okay, Boyo, let me just put you on pause, pardon me, because we've got Yomi calling from Sulere in Lagos. Yomi is calling back. Good morning, Yomi.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, that's better now. So tell us, what are your thoughts on the value of the falling Naira?
Personally, I'm happy this morning because I'm able to speak with Mr. Boyo.
Okay.
I'm a long-term admirer. And for over 10 years, I followed him. You know, the other time you spoke about the prophet, maybe that is not appreciated. But for me, I think it's more, you know, some person even refer to him as a naughty professor. You know, the professor that nobody tends to want to listen to, but he is actually right. I appreciate him. I appreciate his fight, even as a manufacturer, as an industrialist. I follow him, you know, almost like a religion. My thinking is this: a lot of the problems that we've had, you highlighted them, but it's something that keeps, you know, the question that is in my mind: if he were to be made the CBN governor for 6 months, what are those things? Because it's 6 months, what are those things that we will start doing as a matter of immediacy? Maybe if we begin to advocate some of these things that you know we would like to see done as a matter of immediacy, maybe we will begin to see a difference. Maybe Nigerians will begin to understand that in actual fact that some of the problems we are having is not made by this government, and that the government is actually handicapped in certain ways, you know, trying to resolve these issues, so that people like the first gentleman that come from Abba can understand that it's not with the magic wand that we can do some of these things. But I would really, really appreciate Mr. Boyo's views on this. If he were to be made a CBN governor, some of the first things that he would do. My own view, personally, is that there should be some kind of restriction placed on.
Are you answering the question? I thought Yomi, I thought you were asking Mr. Boyo to give you answers. You're already answering them.
Okay. I was just going to say that my own suggestion.
No, why don't you just allow Mr. Boyo? Yeah, okay, Yomi, right. Let Boyo answer that. Thanks very much, Yomi from Sulere. Now, Boyo, you are the governor of the central bank. Your time starts now for 6 months. What are those things that you're going to put in place to, you know, shore up the value of the Naira against the dollar? What are those things?
I'm Henry Boyo sitting in front of Chris Ogodo here. I don't know but I tell you what, this is not rocket science. I have spoken at length in this program now about the critical indices for economic growth. Okay, these critical indices relate to interest rate, inflation, and a stable valued Naira. Okay, because you might see them as simple, but they have their tentacles in everything. Inflation affects every person. Cost of funds remotely affects everybody, because if the investors cannot. So you must say, is there something that affects all three negatively? And the answer is what I told you here before: excess liquidity. Excess liquidity or excess Naira supply. Don't ask me why something that is in excess should be more expensive. But in Nigeria, surplus Naira is there, and surplus naira becomes very expensive to borrow at 20-something%. So basically, you want to find out what is the instigative cause or causes of high interest rates, high rate of inflation, and a continuously weak naira, even when we have posited huge reserves. And when you look at all three, you find that excess liquidity is the villain, because surplus naira supply instigates inflation. Inability to control naira supply within the system means higher rates of inflation. That is why in sensible economies elsewhere, the monetary policy rate of the central bank is usually not more than 1 or 2%. In our case, ours is about 12 or 13%, went as far as 13.5% at one stage. So that's totally wrong.
Okay, we have an international call here, but you continue. We'll have Charles from Cotonou in Benin Republic. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Mr. Christian Udo.
Thank you very much, Charles. Now, tell us, what are your thoughts about Nigeria's falling naira?
Christian, my thought about Nigeria falling naira does not start about the foreign naira. Everything in Nigeria is falling. The fact is that the country that took independence without a plan of action and never have a solution to solve their problem. That is the truth. All what the people are discussing there, strategy. But the fact is that they have to go back to the drawing board and have a plan of action for Nigeria before Nigeria can have a solution for all its problems. Nigeria needs moral reform, not political or judicial reform. It's moral reform. You have to reform the heart of each Nigerian. Politicians, they are not corrupt. It's the civil servants that are there that show the politicians how to be corrupt before politicians become corrupt. Let me tell you the truth.
All right, Charles from Cotonou in Benin Republic there. You know, well, some of the points you're giving on how you're going to regenerate the value of the naira, stabilize the economy, which Yomi had asked, is what Charles too is saying, that we'll have to go back to the drawing board, then pointing accusing fingers, you know, at the kind of civil service that we have. So you just want to continue on that premise and add that?
Yes, I mean, all I'm saying is that if you have a problem, you find out the cause of that problem. That is a sensible approach. So we have a problem. Our problem is with high interest rates, high rate of inflation. And, you know, so what is the most significant cause of the high interest rate? And I've explained that this is caused by surplus naira, which I did not conjure up or whatever, because the people who run our monetary policy framework tell us that every day. That
the naira is too much in circulation.
Exactly, you know.
Let's mop it up.
As you can
and they've been mopping up for decades now.
And somehow this thing is never finished. You know, and you know very well, even secondary school economics says inflation is the result of too much money chasing too few. So you can imagine surplus naira is always there. So you can imagine inflation is already an inbuilt part of our system, and inflation not at a modest rate, but you know, a galloping inflation, which will also be further instigated by further devaluation of the naira. So what has excess liquidity got to do with cost of funds? Plenty, because of trying to stop inflation, in other words, control the naira supply. The central bank wants to discourage people from accessing the funds that are in the system. So consequently, the only way to do that is to increase its own lending rate to the banks, because it says if the banks have to come to me, central bank, to borrow at 13%, it's unlikely they would lend at anything less than 20% or thereabouts. And at 20% or thereabouts, people would not be interested in borrowing money, because only suicidal people borrow at 20-something% to put into industry, you know. So in other words, they hope to control excess liquidity as a result. Exchange rate. Why is the naira falling? Falling because naira supply is all. Even when you had excess dollar reserves, the dollar reserves that you had, first of all, had been substituted with naira allocations, which provided or instigated or further fired the excess naira, and then you now have a system whereby you auction the dollars to the banks, and the banks are sitting on all this. So you can imagine, you need to be able to address the core problem. COETV.
All right. Okay. We'll come to addressing the core problems now. Lovett from Benue State. Good morning, Lovett.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, please tell us your own contributions to our topic of discussion now.
Okay. I want to first of all thank you and Mr. BOYO, the economist. I really enjoy this talk. And my one thought about it is that we just have to look inward. As a matter of fact, I get to check and I discover that we don't export anything outside. And I was surprised when I discovered that even we do more import from outside. So we just have to look inward. And then I'm surprised when people take this thing in a political dimension. I remember when Mbaka said that a skeleton economy was handed over to Buhari, and that is all the truth. Buhari is trying to make avenue on way to bring the economy back to shape. Okay. Before oil has contributed so much to everything we are facing today. So I think we just have to look inward, and this thing that is happening now is to make us strong, is to make us bring out our potentials that we have been looking and we are looking down on it. But this will help us bring our potentials and help us to be strong again. But it's just with time and all this will pass away.
All right, thank you very much, Lovett from Benue State. Well, he still believes in the potential dictum, you understand, at 54, 56 years, and you're talking of potential. That man is, you know, gradually going beyond the age of maturity now, and it will be one leg in the grave, one leg out, you know. So, but go on analyzing the core issues more now. He still believes that we should look inwards, and the CBN is looking outwards. It's just pulling us all in one direction, just one policy. That's what the CBN, you know, exudes every time in economic and monetary policies. Mop the NAIRA up. And that gave room to some of their officials in Ibadan and some other places, they've not caught them, in tripping that money.
Yeah, in recycling
the money.
Recycling the money.
Yeah.
And also, you heard the Mr. President's allegation that directors of central bank were actually busy. They owned Bureau de change and they participated in the looting of the dollars in the treasury. So, in other words, you find that the systems appear to be geared towards ensuring that we would never grow. 54 years in the life of the country is not too much. I mean,
56.
56, yeah, it's not too much. I mean, we are only 56 years old. There are countries that are 500 years old or things like that. So I don't think we should give hope. These are evolving, how do I say it, events that would produce something that would be better for all of us. But as I say, without addressing the issue of excess liquidity, it must come to our consciousness that look, all former central governors, come back here. You know, do you mean that you have participated in this scam for so long? Do you mean that, tell us, how much did you pay the banks just to keep money idle? And tell us, how come you say this thing is surplus, money is surplus? How come surplus money becomes more expensive? And tell us, how come when we had $60 billion worth of reserves, the Naira didn't become you know, stronger or something like that? And now we have the problem of 300 Naira, 350 Naira to $1. And everybody is saying, so-called experts are saying, devalue, devalue. And the moment you devalue, you immediately have kata kata. Because why? If you move the Naira from 200 to 300, first of all, your first casualty is fuel prices.
Oh, yes.
Immediately.
Oh, yes.
Fuel prices immediately. That would go to about 100 and something thousand, 100 and something Naira per liter. And then all of a sudden you find that you're using maybe 50% of your budget again to pay subsidy. So you can attack the problem of excess liquidity in one way. Even though the price of crude oil has fallen and the revenue has fallen, the revenue that you get from crude oil should not be substituted with Naira allocations. Let the dollar certificates be given to the 3 tiers of government. Let them go to the bank and change to Naira. It's a more transparent arrangement. But it would, if it's transparent, it wouldn't be popular. The governors themselves won't like it because it's a transparent arrangement. You take your dollar certificates, you go to the bank, but the dollars you never see because it's a certificate you have. You can only convert it to the bank, and once you converted it to Naira at the bank at whatever the prevailing rate is,
That is what you're going to be spending.
That is what you're going to be. And the dollars will remain domiciled in
the central bank.
Not the one that central bank consciously. Is it rocket science to know that it doesn't make sense to auction dollars to banks? By auctioning, you want to deliberately instigate the price of dollar against the naira. So if you ask me, there is sabotage. This is economic sabotage, honestly. Because these people are not, you're not saying that they're not intelligent. These are well-educated, well-exposed people, but greed has taken care of the mental faculties, unfortunately.
The greed of a few people, sabotaging the dreams, the aspirations of 170 million people, the dreams of a nation, of becoming industrialized. The dream of a nation that started some 56 years ago is still but a dream, just because of a few elites, just because of a few selfish people who want to continue to bastardize the naira. Something serious just got to be done. Henry BOYO, thanks very much.
My pleasure.
It's always a wonderful pleasure having you come to dissect what is our major, probably only problem in this country, the economy.
Thank you.
And to our esteemed viewers and callers, well, how do you people say it? Nigeria is a praying nation. Would that help in this economic quagmire that we find ourselves? The ball is in your court. Thanks for being part of Core Digest today on Core TV News Lagos. My name is Christian Ogodo, and I say thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Is it warocracy or autocracy? Or what type of crazy is that? Except crazy.
News making the headlines.
Black Maria is to carry criminals, trading looters that are in government today.
Sometimes it gets confrontational.
Slap you in the face. They don't put words into my mouth.
Whatever it is that will bring our military to disrepute, I said to hell.
On Core Digest,
I want to know why I should be believing them.
Every weekday, we bring all of these together and take them to the court of public opinion.
Everybody have the right in Nigeria.
Where you are the judge.